first step, everybody. Hey, I got the name right this week, Keys.
Yeah, it's not the sprint.
It's not. Welcome. This is a GDQ Hotfix show. Fairly still, pretty new one for anyone who doesn't know. We basically take games every week that we don't know anything about the speedrun about. We go and play them casually, and then we do a race because we want to show everybody out there just how easy it is to get into speedrunning if you don't have all the time to put in a ton of effort to learn strats, or maybe you just want to kind of start a little bit more casually. It can be as easy as just picking up the game and taking that first step and making a race. So my name is JHobz. I'm joined as always by my co-host Keizaron. Keys, how are you doing today?
Hello. I'm all right. So I would normally say I'm doing all right, but here's a quick disclaimer, guys. Comcast stinks. I had connectivity issues basically all day. It literally just stabilized and settled itself, but we don't know 100% if it's going to be stable throughout the whole stream, so apologies ahead of time if there's any degradation of quality on my end, and if I just outright disappear, that means Hobbs' assassins have indeed succeeded.
Yes, that's true. Now, in a weird twist of fate, well, not twist of fate, I guess, but in any case, this game is very hard to play and talk about at the same time, so we actually have a third person with us, this time a disembodied voice by the name of Roos SR to kind of help commentate and stuff. So yeah, Roos, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm really looking forward to this race. I got to pop into some of your practice streams, and I think this is going to be a super fun race to watch, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Now, is it super fun because you think it's going to be close, or is it super fun because you're going to be like, yeah, look at those dum-dums?
So if I know anything about this game, it's that no lead is going to be safe because this game is very, very lethal. So I'm expecting a lot of deaths from both of you and some hopefully wild lead swings.
And so, Roos, just to give everybody kind of an idea of how people gonna get into speedrunning and just how quickly you can get good at these games and stuff, what would you say is like an average time when you were running this game pretty regularly for you?
So I actually played the prequel to this game, Necrodancer, so I would say I had a pretty big leg up on people coming into it, so I don't know if I'm necessarily representative, but I think when people first start off, clearing the game out in, maybe between 6 to 10 hours your first time through is a pretty good estimate.
Hey, we did great then.
Yeah. Well, but I'm even talking now that once you've had practice and stuff, what are your speed run averages?
If you're very, very good, you can beat this game in 20 minutes. The really top players are faster than that, but yeah, if you know what you're doing, then you can shoot for 20 minutes.
All right, I want everybody to take a look at that estimate that's right near Keys there at the bottom of your screen.
What even is the estimate?
We're looking for hopefully under 3 hours, maybe. We'll see. But again, this is everybody starts somewhere, and a lot of the times people end up picking up games just like this, where they just kind of go at it and see. Especially happens with new games like Pokemon Sword and Shield. I know you've been jumping in a lot, Keys, doing a lot of testing for that.
Boy.
Hey, we're gonna take your mind off Pokemon for this week.
Yeah, please do. It has been rough. It's been rough.
Oh man,
for sure.
All right, with that, I think we've kind of talked enough about this already. We should probably get going. Again, once we start, Keys and I will be talking much less, far less than usual, because this is a game that takes a lot of focus. And I expect once we kind of get into the swing of things, Roos is going to do a lot of the commentary for us. But hopefully we'll be able to chime in still with our thoughts and stuff like that, our first impressions of what we are going to try to do fast.
Before we begin, though, I owe you some compliments.
Oh yes, I forgot about this.
You always do, and I always don't, and I could get out of it, but I'm a man of my word. So for those of you that may be new to the show or maybe forgot, we added a fun little stipulation to our races where the loser of the prior race has to pay 3 compliments to the winner of the prior race, and Hobbs very barely beat me in Bastion. It was a really good race. It was his version of my Goose Game win.
Yes.
So with that in mind, I do owe you 3 compliments. So first off, I just want to say, I'm going to count this as a compliment. You might take it as one, you might not. But I find it funny how you and I have such a great minds think alike aspect to that game that we both had the exact same weapons planned out. And the whole time we were like, oh, I'm not going to say what I was using because I don't want you to know. And then it just turns out to be the same thing anyway.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for being a man of culture.
All right. That sounded like a half compliment on yourself, but sure, go ahead. Carry on.
Hey, I got to boost myself up a little bit too, Also, you really kept your cool. I had a significant lead, but as we've seen with all of these races, no lead is ever safe. unless it's Titanfall. But so yeah, you kept your composure, and then after we took the break, you definitely collected your thoughts and you played astoundingly from there. So kudos to you on that.
Thank you.
And then I actually don't know what a third compliment in that case would be, other than thanks for the close race.
All right, fine, close enough. I guess we'll get going with this.
We'll go with
I guess
that.
somebody was asking what the overall score is right now. I think it's 4-2. Does that sound right? 5-2? Is it 5-2? Oh yeah, because 4-2.
Yeah, because you're on a 3-game streak.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were trading, so it's 5-2. I'm losing hard.
That's okay, because this one could be anybody's game. Let's get going. On go in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay. So yeah, this is Cadence of Hyrule. Roos, you want to go ahead and just kind of tell people how this game plays and everything, how this whole thing works?
I'm going to give a quick little rundown. So basically, this is the easiest way to think of this game is that it's turn-based, even though it doesn't really look like it. What you're going to see on your screen is a little bit of a beat bar down at the bottom, where you're going to see some little bars come to the center, and one of those is going to reach the middle every single beat of the music, and you can take one action per beat. So it's kind of like you're taking turns, but a turn is coming to you real quick, once per beat. So all of the enemies and everything on the map are going to work according to that schedule as well. So you don't have to do something every beat, but basically you're losing your turn every time you don't. So the game really incentivizes you to keep to the beat and move quickly, so you're not wasting actions. Now, as far as the overall structure of the game is concerned, what we're trying to do here is, this is a Zelda game. We're trying to rescue the princess or beat Ganon, depending on which character you're playing. So with the story mode here, there are 4 dungeons we need to go to, including beating some bosses and then some a final dungeon we're going to have to do. Now, this is kind of a roguelite. Basically, the overworld is going to be procedurally generated, so these guys are not going to know exactly where those dungeons are every time they start. There are kind of some basic rules to where stuff can go, but generally speaking, you're going to get a new map every single time. Now, you're going to start off very, very weak, not a whole lot of hearts, not a whole lot of damage, but as you go through, you're going to be able to try and find more items and things like that to power yourself up. So this game really seeks to blend sort of that rhythm-based Necrodancer gameplay with sort of the Zelda structure, which we're going to be looking to find items that increase our abilities and get more heart pieces.
Did you end up picking
like
Link, even though we both agreed to use Zelda?
I just out of habit, yes.
That's okay.
I was waiting for a moment to mention it, but I was like, no. He's doing a good job of explaining things. I'm just gonna.
That's okay. We were gonna both play the same character, but we actually picked different characters when we first played this game casually. So it's understandable that one might accidentally pick the wrong thing.
Yeah, and so I don't think this is really going to play a huge role because these guys seeded the map. They're both playing on the same map. The 2 characters just start in a different place, so they're not beginning in the same area, and the 2 characters are very slightly different. Zelda gets kind of like a reflector, and Link gets a shield that he can hold out in front of us. So there's some minor differences. If you're really gunning for those 20-minute times like we were talking about, you're going to want to play Zelda, but in this context, really, I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference. I think you guys are just fine like this.
I'm investing time into something because I think that... Oh, man. Okay, well, this is a horrible investment. I was trying to invest time into defeating that enemy so I could get the rupees because I thought it might come in handy, but...
All right, so let's talk about you guys' UI a little bit. If you guys look up into the top left of your screen, you're going to see your hearts. That's pretty self-explanatory. Just like Zelda, that's your health. There is a bar underneath that. That represents your stamina. Now, a lot of items are going to use up that stamina, and that gets refreshed by killing enemies. So the game definitely incentivizes you to get aggressive and dive into enemy mobs because you can power up your ability to use your items by killing things. And then over in the top right, you can see there's some item slots. You get a few different kinds of items. You can get shovels for digging things. You can get torches for lighting your way up in dungeons and things like that. And you can get different weapons with different ranges and different properties, which we'll talk about as they come up. And then you can see some circles as well where you can map the different items we find. Right now, we don't really have a whole lot. Both players have some bombs that work pretty much just like you would expect from Zelda. You just drop them and they'll blow up some things like cracked walls and do a lot of damage. Now, if you look over on the left screen here for HobZ, he's taken some time to explore a few different chests here. Just got himself a torch that's a little bit better than the one that he had. That's a battle torch, which I think that reflects some damage. I actually don't even know what that one does. We never picked that one up when we're trying to go fast.
When they hit me, they...
Oh, okay, they take some damage back, yeah. And then we're actually pretty close to each other at this point. You can see that they're kind of around this central lake area right now. There's a few features in the map. Oh no, keys!
I got boxed in.
Oh yeah, also get ready for us to die a lot in this because this is really hard, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, once you get a lot more hearts and like some bottles with potions in them that can refill your life, that's it starts to get a little bit easier. But especially this beginning here, when they have bad damage and no health, you're gonna see a ton of deaths. There actually is an extra hard mode called permadeath mode where the game functions as a true roguelike and you just have to start over every time you die, but that's certainly not for the faint of heart and not appropriate for today.
Yeah, I don't think that would work very well for this race.
No, let's say definitely not. All right, so there's some interesting overmap or overworld features that we can look at. If you're looking at Hobbs' screen right here, you can see a chest. It has a skull on it. That indicates that that can only be opened once you've defeated all the enemies on the screen. So he's taken the time to clear these out here and hope he finds something good in that chest there. And actually, Keys had one on his screen as well, opting not to take the time to go and check that and just exploring. Finds a cool little hut here, which actually... Oops. This hut right here has some pretty interesting things in it. You can buy potions if you've got bottles, and actually it also does something very handy where you can get sort of like your fortune read, and she can indicate for you where on the map some certain objectives are. So it's a pretty handy thing to find if you want to explore your map a little bit better. And
See,
find
that's
out
what
where you
I'm
need to be
looking
going
for
next.
right now, is exactly the fortune teller. That, or also like if I could find a bottle or something, because I have a feeling, or just more hearts. I think 3 hearts is going to be hard to deal with overall.
Yeah, even for experienced players, trying to get through with 3 hearts can be a little tough, because there's a lot of enemies that do just like more damage than that in one hit.
She didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. Come on. What a waste.
Okay, so not super helpful hint from there. Keys already knew about that particular dungeon location because he'd already been there, but next time we find another one, hopefully we can get some more useful information out of that.
I've no
Now, Hobbs
idea
over there Hobbs just found some glass slippers right there. So there's different classes of items in this game. So like there's shoes, but then there's also some modifiers. Like, so this one in particular is glass, and glass tends to be extremely good at what it does. The problem is as soon as you get hit, it breaks permanently. And unfortunately, it's already gone, so he has indeed lost the glass slippers. And honestly, unless you're extremely good, you can't really expect your glass to last too long. So it's just kind of a matter of hoping it will last as long as you can and then moving on.
You know what? That death was strategic, so I could get the heart container. That's what I'm gonna go with.
I don't want to talk about what I just did.
So one of the aspects of this game, it is a roguelite, so it does have some consequences for death. In particular, you lose your money and your keys and some of your like items like shovels and torches. You do get to keep some things though. Specifically, you can keep your diamonds, and that's a currency you get usually from clearing out a screen full of enemies. And every time you die, there's a shop that you can spend your diamonds on to give yourself something to kind of give yourself a leg up on your new life.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, Crypt of the Necrodancer speedruns often, like, they have a really unique rule about them, right? Compared to, like, a lot of other games that involve random elements, like randomizers and stuff like that. They actually normally do a kind of interesting thing, right?
What are you referring to,
where
like
you can
the seating?
actually look at each other's screens, generally, right, I think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, because there's so much randomization in this game in Necrodancer, typically, instead of runners caring so much about what their personal best run is, it's more about racing, or like your average time, so it's very, very popular as a race game. So you'll have both players start on the same seed, and they actually do let you watch each other's streams. Now, less so for Cadence of Hyrule because exploring the overworld is a big part of the game, but for Necrodancer especially, which doesn't have this overworld, it's actually strategic to allow you to watch each other's streams and like scout out where the other guys find items and things like that, and it's just considered part of the run. But Cadence of Hyrule, I think, is less so with that because, like I said, you need to find out where the dungeons are on your overworld map, and getting to see it from your opponent is a pretty big advantage.
All right, well, this is not quite what I was looking for. It's unfortunately a shop and not the fortune teller that I was hoping for, but at least it's good to know it's here.
Yeah, so this shop right here, this is a place to spend the rupees that you can collect, and not only the locations, but actually the contents of these shops are randomized as well, so taking a peek in there and finding out what you can find is oftentimes a pretty good strategy. Sometimes you'll find really good like hover boots or things like that can be pretty useful. Now, both of these players are really kind of taking their time to scour the overworld right now and see as much of the map as possible just so they know where their dungeons are and hopefully find some useful items on the way. typically the way you'll kind of want to approach it is just discover what your world map is like. Find the high value items like these shops right here that JHobz is walking into right now, so that you can get a look at where the dungeons are on the map and find your potions, find some weapons, things like that, and then approach the dungeons once you've gotten yourself a little powered up. That can definitely be a really, really useful strategy for this game.
I wanted to test something that I meant to test casually, but I didn't, which was seeing if you could get the fortune teller to reveal more of the more locations on the map if you just kind of talk to her a couple times in a row. But unfortunately, it does not seem like you could do that. So I'm just going to work towards my first objective marker.
Now on Keiza's screen over here, you can see a purple chest that's locked. Again, this is basically you're going to have to kill all this enemies on screen to be able to get this to open up. The different colors of chests do have different types of items in them. Typically, I think purple is going to have stuff that's a little bit more permanent than red. Red a lot of times has things like glass weapons and things like that. So once you know what's in the chests, you can kind of make some informed decisions about what to get.
I was just showcasing that you cannot swim in deep water right away.
Ah, yes. Thank you, JHobz. I'm glad someone can take the hit.
Now, what you're
Don't
seeing
you worry,
over
though.
on
I've
JHobz is...
showcased how often you can die.
I think we'll be seeing a lot of that. Now, what you're seeing over on JHobz's screen over on the left, there's a couple of puzzles like this where you have to replicate a Zelda song by stepping on these little musical notes. And in exchange for doing so correctly, you'll get access to an item or something like that.
I'm actually really glad that I got that first try. I didn't think I was
Nice,
going to.
well done. That's the longest sequence in the game, too, so that's the hardest one to remember. So he got himself down thrust there, which allows you to basically pogo stick on top of enemies' heads if you can get some elevation on top of them.
That doesn't really help me.
And what you saw over on Keiza's stream just now was a skull charm, which allows him to look at his map and find out where the stronger boss monsters are. And not just the bosses in the dungeons, because you can find those from the fortune tellers, but specifically like the mini bosses that you can find on the overworld. And usually when you fight those, they'll drop like a useful item or like a more powerful weapon, something like that. So you can use that to get some information about where to find yourself some better equipment.
I'm really good at using bombs and then really bad at dodging the bomb explosion because I'm a dumpy.
I'm currently trying to decide if I want to go... Okay, I think I stumbled upon one of the dungeons. I was going to try to I was trying to decide if I wanted to go back to the fortune teller or not. But I was looking for the loot, because the loot is really important and should make things a lot faster with me trying to find... trying to traverse back to the fortune teller. And why is that?
Yeah, that is a very important item. It's basically a fast travel mechanism. Now, if you look on JHobz's screen, there's like a little blue glowing doorway looking thing. That is a Sheikah stone, and you'll find those all around the world. And they're really useful, one, because they refill your health and stamina when you activate them, but they are also fast travel points once you have the loot. So your ability to move around the map to places you've already been is much, much higher once you get the loot here. It doesn't let you get to any new places, just places you've already been, but it really, really helps with the backtracking.
So now I have a problem, because I apparently didn't do this the kind of normal intended way when I played this. And so
yeah, I'm kind of wondering how you're planning to approach this, because I actually saw on JHobz's stream when he did that part, and basically they intentionally designed this game so that there are multiple ways to approach problems depending on what item sets you have. And he had a very useful item at the time that allowed him to bypass some of this, and now that he doesn't have that item, it's a little bit harder to get around now.
I'm hoping maybe the fortune teller will just tell me a different location to go to for now, because I don't know which way to go or how to kind of go through that area. Really hoping she doesn't mark the same place, and she marked the same place. Okay, should have seen that coming.
Fortune tellers have not been super helpful this time around.
No, that wasn't the same place. I'm actually fine. Okay, I thought it was. Or am I wrong? I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to go back to it.
One fairly interesting thing about the overworld in this game is that you basically get divided up into these different biomes. Like you can see that Keiz is in this desert area, and not only does that change between some really banging songs, but basically your different dungeons are going to be in different biomes as well. So if you can get a glimpse of like the edge of a square of a different type, like you can see the desert or something, that can really clue you into where the desert dungeon is going to be. So keeping your eyes open for little clues like that in the overworld are a big part of what makes a good Cadence of Hyrule runner.
Well, I'm clearly not that at the moment because I am so lost.
That's why they call this the first step, not the
Exactly.
millionth step.
See, this guy gets it. Yeah, I saw that.
So I think you guys can see even just in the 20 minutes or so that we've been playing, you guys can see, oh no, glass into immediate death. That's one way to break your glass. But you guys can see just watching this how brutally difficult this game can be. I mean, we're up to like 5+ deaths on each side at this point, and still very low on health and damage and things like that. So it's seeing a bit of a struggle like this is not at all unusual.
So I got the down thrust thing from here, which is making me think I need to use that somehow to get to this dungeon, but I'm not sure I see a good way to do it. Maybe I can hop on these guys. It would be great if I could like understand. Oh, that's how I was supposed to do this. Okay. That's amazing. I did not know that.
There we go. We're literally seeing learning in the process live in front of you people right now.
No, I don't want him to learn.
It's okay. I'm going to die anyway.
I'm on a losing streak.
Now, I actually didn't see how Keys approached this part when he played, so I'm really curious to see what his method is.
I was probably trying not to die.
You know, funnily enough, Hobbs, you were actually really close to discovering a speed fast strat for getting into this area earlier when you were trying to figure out how to get into it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was laughing pretty hard at how close you got to it.
We're going to try going this way.
So you can see how much bigger this area that Hobbs is in right now. This is kind of this large square is basically preset. Like everything in right here is a set piece that is always going to be the same. Now where exactly it is on the map can change, but because there's not any screen transitions right here, it's essentially always going to be the same every time you come here. So it's hard to like once you understand it and once you know what items you can use, it's pretty quick to come through here. But because it's so big, like your first time seeing it is definitely a little complicated to understand.
I have a hard time with perspective in this game sometimes. So you're going to see me probably fall off of ledges onto the wrong tile a lot.
So I've pretty much just been exploring the map in general. It's kind of opening it up.
Definitely not a bad idea, especially as long as you're activating those Sheikah stones. You can always come back to these places later, so you're basically giving yourself more fast travel points the more of the map you open up like this.
That's kind of the plan for me right now.
Can't get up there. Yeah, my plan is to see if this will work, and it didn't. Okay. So I think I need to like bait some enemies over to be able to get across this, but
now Keys has managed to find himself some extra damage here, which is extremely helpful. Just in terms of going faster, if you, if you need 5 beats to kill something versus 2 beats to kill something, that's obviously saving yourself quite a bit of time, as well as safety, because the faster you're killing things, the less chance you get to hit yourself. So finding extra damage is generally really, really valuable.
silly of me. So the way that a lot of these enemies move is they'll either move on every beat, or they'll move like every half beat. So every other beat. So sometimes it can be really hard to like figure out exactly how to move in a way that's going to not get you hit and still move you closer to the enemy.
Yeah, so the important thing to keep in mind is there's not randomness to the enemies. They do have very well-defined patterns, but it's not always easy to understand. And even if you do, trying to parse it so that you can react to it quickly enough when there's a huge mob of enemies can be quite difficult. So it's a big part of improving at this game is just getting familiar enough with the enemies that you can really, really quickly understand exactly what they're going to do as soon as you see them.
I think I'm going to do some more exploring, because I think that the fact that I did that section that I was in so much later in my first playthrough is making it hard for me to think about how to actually handle it.
Yeah, and you can always come back with more items later, hopefully making some things easier for yourself. The dungeons can actually be tackled in any order. You can do them as you encounter them, or you can save some for later, and they do scale based on how many bosses you've killed up to that point. So theoretically speaking, you should be able to tackle them in whatever order, but you may find it easier or harder to get to the dungeon itself depending on what your items are. So there's definitely nothing wrong with coming back to it later. The other thing to keep in mind is that the enemies on the overworld also scale based on boss kills. So the more bosses you have killed, the higher level and more damage the enemies that you come across are. So definitely one possible strategy is to just make sure you get all your overworld exploration done first before you take the time to kill any bosses.
Hobbs, I took another death. I'm a sad boy.
This, I'm just having trouble finding things. I think I got a lot luckier with finding everything in my first playthrough. I found the fortune teller like right next to the first Sheikah stone, so maybe I was wrong and I should go down into this section. So I'm gonna spend some time in here because I died in here before, and so I just thought it was probably not worth coming down here.
Now, generally speaking, when you come into these caves, you're most likely going to find a boss or a puzzle of some kind, and in exchange you'll be getting an item. Now, there's a lot of different items that reference the Zelda series, and some of them are more useful than others. The really, really powerful ones would be like the hook shot in particular is very useful, as is the bow and things like that. So these players are definitely going to be on the lookout for those.
I never saw the hook shot.
I never solved a puzzle, I don't think, in this entire game.
Not one single puzzle.
But this was also, for anyone who does not know, this is my first Zelda game, believe it or not.
That's actually quite amazing to have played as many games as you have and not played a Zelda game.
Yep. I'm not seeing much reason to stay in here. So I'm just going to move on. Try to open up more in the map.
So I don't know about you guys, but just the fact that Nintendo licensed out the Zelda IP to an indie developer like this, one, I think that's really amazing. But two, it just immediately made me think of all the other franchises that I want to see crossed over with Necrodancer. And in particular, I really want to see Pokemon, just because I want the composer for this game to do a remix of Gladion's theme from Sun and Moon.
That is such a like specific like reason, like thing to.
I'm down. I agree.
Look, we're speedrunners here. Being neurotic about our games is not exactly unusual. Let's be real.
So the fact that I'm like encountering so many walls in this overworld, blocking me off from certain areas, is what's really throwing me off a lot. I don't think I had quite as many just straight up blocking where I wanted to go. Casually.
And yeah, that's part of the reason that typically in a game like this, the runners don't care so much what their single best run is, as when you start up, there's a lot of luck involved, just with, you know, where the walls are and where the dungeons are and what items you run across, as to what, like, how good of a time you can get. So really, runners are much more concerned with their average clear time than their actual best run. So as you can see, like, yeah, Hobbs, you're running into a lot of walls here that are blocking you off from where you want to get to, so there's a lot more sidetracking that has to be done than in some maps.
Oops. Oh, hey, there's a mimic. I didn't know mimics were in this game. I never ran into one.
Oh, yeah, mimics are in this, and they're terrible. I get baited by them. It's horrible.
So Keys has come across Kakariko Village here, which is useful for a couple of reasons. There's like a archery challenge you can do and a shop, which sometimes has some good stuff. But in the story mode, we do actually have to come here to wake up the other character you're not playing. So for Keys, he's going to have to wake up Zelda, and for Hobbs later, he's going to have to wake up Link. And there's a little small dungeon associated with doing that. We'll see when exactly the runners decide to tackle that dungeon. Could be later once they have better items, could do it now just to get out of the way. We will find out. But there is a Sheikah stone here, fortunately, so you can always come back later.
I should probably go get that piece of heart, shouldn't I?
Oh, I get it. You mentioned it, so I wanted to try it, but I haven't actually done this yet.
It's like it throws the beats off. They're not regular during the archery challenge, so it's really difficult.
Oh, I'll take that. Heck yeah.
Ah. I am so bad with the enemies that you have to reflect.
So, generally speaking, Zelda is better than Link, but specifically when it comes to reflecting stuff like that, Link, I think, does have the leg up because you can just hold the shield out towards them and you don't have to time the reflector.
I am quite at risk of dying here.
Oh, Hobbs, that is a dangerous enemy. That's a Lionel. Oh, God.
Oh, you ran into a Lionel?
Well done, though. Got it. Now just don't die
No,
to the
don't-
Armos
no.
here. Oh, no. That would just be tragic to die to, like, the weaker enemy after beating a Lionel.
That would be the first step.
Yeah.
That would be traditional us.
So you can see Keys has decided to go ahead and do this dungeon now. The dungeon layouts are randomly generated when you come into them, and actually it's even a little bit worse than that because if you die and you have to start the dungeon again, it reshuffles the dungeon layouts. You don't just get to come back to your same dungeon again, so you definitely do not want to die while you're doing dungeons in this game. Not that you would ever, but it's more punishing than you might expect.
Okay. Let's see what was in here. Just diamonds. That was a lot of a time investment for no reason. Ooh, it's okay.
So Keys got himself the hibiscus potion, which you take into the house outside and wake up your counterpart, which you'll find out later in the end game dungeon exactly why we need to have the other characters awake and available, but just basically it's required for story progression.
Alright, I found another Sheikah stone at least. As long as I
I'm
can
missing
get
a
to
lot
it.
of beats right now.
There we go.
Just blame Comcast, Keys. Like, the internet is going out and it's making you miss your beats.
Yes! Yes, I got my favorite weapon.
All right, so Keys just got himself a two-handed sword, which is actually Link exclusive. Each character, that is one other minor difference they have. Link can get two-handed swords, which can hit from 2 squares away, and you can actually hold it out and just like swing it around in a circle around you, which is super funny. And then Zelda will get rapiers, which can hit from 2 squares away, but if you attack from 2 away, you kind of lunge forward, so it's faster if you can keep it under control, but it's a little bit more dangerous because you're kind of pushing yourself forward into the enemy mob, so you can definitely get yourself in a bad spot with it if you're not careful.
Huh. And then the game tempts me with a glass spear instead. Very well.
I saw a bottle, so now I'm like really considering fighting a lot of enemies to get some rupees here.
Yeah, bottles are extremely useful, especially for newer runners, because you can get a potion which basically acts like a fairy does traditionally in Zelda, where when you die it just fills your health back up. So stacking a couple of bottles with health potions for the late game is really, really valuable.
Man, I am
I
so...
need to remember where I found the salesman so I could put titanium on my longsword.
I'm just really glad that Roos is here because I know I would not have been able to talk at all during this game. Oh, there's so much focusing on just keeping the beat.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah, shoutouts to Spoody Biscuit. He's run this game before, and he's done double time mode with the secret character that dies in one hit and talked during it. I don't know how that is at all possible.
like keeping the beat itself you get used to and isn't like too bad. It's having to think about the other things you need to do while also keeping the beat.
Yeah, I think that's something that's a little bit deceptive. A lot of times when people see this game, I hear a quick reaction where they're like, oh, I'm a musician, this game should be easy for me. It's like, keeping the beat is the easy part. Understanding what the enemies are going to do, that's the tricky part.
I feel so called out right now.
Hey, I said the same thing, so trust me, we're all in the same boat together.
Unbelievably so called out.
Never have I heard something that I agree 100% with and am so offended by.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. I'm like, huh, he's right. I'm upset about this, but he's right.
You might have already talked about this, Roos, but do you want to let people know what the significance of the diamonds are?
Yeah, so just to recap, a lot of your stuff goes away when you die, specifically your money, and then if you look in the top right, your items that go in those little gray squares like torches and shovels, those will get dropped when you die. And diamonds are sort of a way to allow you to keep some continuation between lives, so you're not just starting from square one every time. Your diamonds do not go away, and you can spend those. There's a couple of overworld shops that use them, and then when you die, you get access to like a death shop that has some random items in it you can buy for diamonds. So that way you can get yourself a replacement torch, replacement shovel, things like that. So you're not just going in completely bare bones on your next life.
All right, getting items, but not super useful ones. Not what I want.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a pretty wide item pool in this game, so a lot of times getting just the couple that you want can be pretty tough. You just kind of have to hope you find what you're looking for.
Yeah, me not knowing how to get through that one dungeon. Okay, I'm in the Lost Woods. I know that's somewhere I can at least handle.
So the Lost Woods functions just like you would expect it to from how it works in Zelda. Basically, there's one exit that you can do that's correct, and any of the others are going to take you back to the entrance of the Lost Woods. There is an item that we can get in here that will help you find your way through it, though. So you can get some clues as to which is the correct exit. You don't have to just trial and error your way through.
Oh, I thought that
Now, if you direct your attention to Keiza's side of the screen, you can see how valuable having just one extra square of range is. I mean, his two-handed sword is letting him poke this stuff from so much further away. And in terms of keeping yourself from taking damage, it's really, really quite valuable.
I just need to upgrade the damage for it, and I'll be a happy boy.
So one little difference between this game and Crypt of the Necrodancer is on this game, when you do clear all the enemies out of a screen, it actually does not have to, you don't have to use the beat mechanic anymore. It'll just let you move freely as fast as you want. And that doesn't come into play a whole lot, but it just lets you get across the screens faster. So maybe if you fought almost everything, maybe just kill that one last enemy to give yourself unrestricted movement across the screen.
Just let me get the heart, man. It's right there.
Oh, keys. Oh, God.
I'm alive.
Congrats.
Thank you so much for this two-handed sword.
Meanwhile, I have gone all of the wrong directions to progress in the Lost Woods.
Oh, Hobbs, are you just trial and erroring?
I'm just trial and erroring.
Here? Oh, man. What a beast.
Because I don't remember how I got the item that will kind of tell you where to go here, so...
So I don't want to spoil this, but once you're done with this, and I know you'll never play this game again, I'm going to tell you a cool trick for how to get through this really easily.
All right, sounds good.
I know the trick. I figured it out before.
Oh, no.
Dang, Key's the god gamer over
I was
here.
hoping there would be like a tell with like which trees or something. No.
All right, there's only so many
I
options.
know.
Hobbs will get through this eventually.
I've already found, like, I've already narrowed it down to the next option. I have to go north here.
Oh, that was not what I meant to do.
Ooh, that's unfortunate. Keys had like a really, really nice set of boots there that gives him extra damage, and those are definitely not boots you want to lose, and those do go away once you die. Oh, one thing I don't think we talked about, this is different from Necrodancer as well, but some of your items actually do have durability in this game. Boots are one of them. Boots, rings, shovels, torches, things like that. Every time they get used, they lose a little bit of their durability, and they will wear out over time. So once you get those damage boots, they aren't permanent. They do last a pretty good long while if you're not taking damage and dying, but you don't just get to keep them for the entire rest of the run, unfortunately. I know a lot of people who complained about durability in Breath of the Wild are probably super happy to see durability in this game, right? Alright, so what Keys just did on his screen was he basically enchanted his weapon with titanium, which gives it an extra point of damage. So now not only does he have that 2 range, but he also has 2 damage as his base value as well. Definitely going to help him a lot with the safety here.
See, I hate the fact that I know where one of the dungeons is, but I can't find, like, the thing that I need to get to that dungeon, because as Hobbs pointed out earlier, we can't swim.
Yeah.
I need to find those magical swimmy feats. I mean, you may refer to them as slippers. Or flippers.
Flippers. Yeah, probably not slippers. If you're referring to them as slippers, I recommend stopping.
Oops.
I can't remember if this
So I
is
am
a
missing
section.
a couple of beats here and there. I'm actually doing different audio monitoring than I did when I played casually.
Also Comcast.
Also Comcast.
I can't remember if this was a thing I actually needed to do or not, so I'm just gonna do it. And it's useless.
Hobbs, that boss you're fighting right now is like one of my least favorite boss types in this game. It's very annoying.
Well, it's good for me.
So
it was
unfortunately,
useless.
he got himself a shield upgrade, and as you guys can tell from looking right now, only Link can use shields. So not the greatest upgrade for Hobbs to find right now.
Yeah. I wish I knew what secret it was to get through here.
What?
Alright. We're gonna try north. No!
Don't die! Oh my god! At the half heart.
Oh, wait. Is this where I get the item? Am I silly? Is it just like right in this tree and I'm dumb? Oh, well, let's find out after I respawn. Yeah, so this is a really hard one. This is, like, you know, we talk about how for this show, the whole point is you don't have to put a bunch of investment when you just want to get started with speedrunning. This is one where I would probably put in just enough to learn a little bit. Things like certain tricks for figuring out the overworld, and other stuff like that.
Yeah, and something that I find appealing about running this game, and Necrodancer as well, a lot of times there's sort of like this big divide between playing a game and speedrunning it, because you end up doing all these crazy tricks and things that just, they're not really playing the game in the same way that you would play it casually. But outside of like a very few specific skips and things like that, essentially the way you get better at this game and Necrodancer is just playing the game and being really good at it. Like being able to fight enemies effectively without dying. That's really how you get better at this game. So I find that appealing about it myself.
Mm-hmm.
I know not all runners are into that, but that is one thing that I like about it.
Yeah, I love games like that.
I hurt myself.
Keys got himself from that music puzzle that he did a little bit earlier. He got himself a pretty useful item called the Power Glove, which basically just lets him pick up heavier things, and like things like the big stone blocks you'll see like that. He can now pick those up and move them around, and that can help with getting through some of the overworld puzzles. Like you can use them to get them out of your way.
I thought I had already figured out that path, and I hadn't, so I could have just used the item. I just picked up an item that I should have picked up right away. That basically will tell me where to go in the Lost Woods.
To address the question in chat about who's ahead right now, really difficult to assess at the moment, just because they haven't really done dungeons, either one of them yet. They've both covered probably about the same amount of the overworld. Keys maybe has slightly better items right now, but in terms of who's actually ahead, it's hard to say right now.
Stay away from me, stay away from me.
If Hobbs dies to the Lost Woods maybe 15 or 20 more times, then I think we can call Keys solidly in the lead.
I was really hoping it would be that one, just to make things easy. Nope.
So you can see Keys at the entrance to the desert dungeon right here. There's a little bit of a puzzle to get into it even once you've gone in the front door. You need 3 gears, and those can be found throughout the desert. You have to figure out how to get them. Don't want to spoil it for anybody, but once you've got 3, then the Gerudo in there will open up the entrance for you by lowering the bridge and letting you get across. So Keys is gonna see if he can find himself some gears.
I cheated. I didn't get gears when I played. I found.
Oh, did you find one of the skips?
Lava. Yeah.
Good for you. There's a decent number of skips in this game were actually developer intended. And the ability to get across the lava like that, I think, was put in intentionally like that. So it's always neat when people find those things on their own.
Oh, I'm in a dungeon, finally.
Let's not talk about what I just did, please.
Okay.
So keep in mind, on Hobbs' screen right now, this dungeon is a randomly generated layout, and if he does die, it's going to reshuffle it as well. So the layout, you can't just memorize the layout or clear it out and get to redo it. So there's 2 floors to each of the dungeons. and there's a little bit of a rule to it. Basically, to get to the next floor, you need to go through a locked door. And so each dungeon is going to have at least one key you can find to open that door. And it can be like in a room that you have to fight some monsters for. There could be one in a shop. There could be one in a chest or that you have to dig for. But you need some form of small key to open the room that lets you get to the next floor. And once you get through 2 floors, you'll get a boss key and then can tackle the boss of the dungeon. There are 4 unique dungeons to each. Each one has its own boss, and they all have really, really amazing music / Zelda puns that you'll see once we get to one. But they are absolutely phenomenal and possibly the best part of this game. I think you guys can maybe agree.
They're pretty good. All right, sometimes you can just buy
my
a
favorite
key.
part.
I was hoping maybe this would be one of those times. It wasn't. I am going to use some bombs here to try to get some more money so that way I can potentially get this piece of heart. Because my thinking is that the more health I have, the easier time I'm going to have as things scale up in this game, which is probably going to be the most important part of this race.
No, I got robbed of diamonds. I'm so upset.
Oh no. Now, it's also important for Hobbs to take the time to get this heart piece because it will refill his health, and if he dies, you remember he has to redo this floor all over again.
Yes,
so he
that was a
definitely
thing
wants the
I
health
knew
refill.
and was thinking about. I want to get that heart, but I'll get poisoned, so there's not really any point.
I can see like the gears turning in Hobbs' head about like, do I pick up the heart on the poison water? Does that get me more health or does it kill me?
Oh, hey, so I got a flail. Flails are, in my opinion, the least fun weapon in the game.
I dislike flails so much.
I could see how they could
They are
be
not my
useful,
thing.
but I don't know how to use them properly.
So
Yeah,
they're
I'm
definitely
cuckoo with
difficult
them.
to use, but they have the huge advantage that you can move and attack at the same time. So once you get used to them and you want to go fast, they're actually very, very useful.
Okay, so I found the exit. I could take it, but I still think I might go for trying to get just a few more rupees to grab that heart piece. Because I do have a spear now, which should help a little bit.
Yeah, so Hobbs now has himself 2 range as well, which, as mentioned, really increases your safety in this game. And when deaths are as costly as they are in this game, more safety is really, really appreciated.
Yeah, unfortunately mine is glass, so as soon as I get hit, I'm going to lose it. But as soon as I get
just
hit,
don't get
I
hit.
might die anyways, so...
Hooray, I found a cave charm.
So Keys has found himself a pretty good collection of charms. You can see when he opens his map there, even the squares he hasn't been to, he actually gets quite a bit of information about what kind of chests are there and where the bosses are and things like that. So in terms of his mapping, that's actually quite good at knowing what's around. If he knows what he's looking at, of course, which no guarantee for a second playthrough.
Let's approach this from another angle. Actually, let's approach this from this angle. Okay, cool. So I've wiped out all the enemies, so now I can move freely, and I got enough money to grab this piece of heart. So really happy with that. I'm actually going to get torch as well, because I didn't have one. And now I can move on. Yes! Have you done a dungeon yet? Keys?
I woke Zelda up. That's
Oh, okay.
really all I've
That
done.
kinda counts. I just got the hook shot, luckily. I'm really... I was tempted to get the war drum because I have found the war drum to be pretty useful for me at times, but the hook shot is the only way that I know how to get into that other dungeon that I know the location of, so I'm going to call that
So
a little
Wardrum
more
is
useful.
good. Hookshot is probably the single best item to get in terms of like what it does for you utility-wise, so I definitely agree with taking that one first.
Yeah. There was a pause and a thought, though.
He blew up on me. I'm in so much pain. What the heck just happened?
Oh, I lost my spear. That's really unfortunate.
So Hobbs did find himself a map of the dungeon, which basically just in the bottom right corner of the screen, you can see the full layout of the dungeon. And actually that will carry over even if you die. So you'll get a new layout, but you will still be able to see the layout if you have the map. And each dungeon has both a map and a compass. The map gives you the layout, and the compass will put this little blue arrow on the screen that you can actually see on Hobbs's right now that will point you in the direction of either the exit or a place to get a key if you don't have one.
I'm pleased with the item I just bought.
All right. Does he have a key?
I was looking away. Did you get, was it the boots keys?
I got the Goron locket.
Oh, yes, that is a very, very good purchase. I highly approve of that money being spent. So that's going to basically make him quite a bit more resistant to fire damage in many ways, including being able to jump into lava. So it's a good buy.
So I bought a key. I'm really tempted to check this chest, but I think I'm going to be smart and go towards the dungeon exit.
So you can see Hobbs taking advantage of that compass there. He followed that blue arrow and knows how to get directly to the boss room with the exit in here. Don't die to the boss, though.
Yeah, we're going to play this a little safe. Go around.
I mean, if you want to die, I'm fully supportive of your decision to do that right now, Hobbs.
Oh, I knew you would be, friend, but...
I mean, that's what our friends for, right?
Right. I think I'm going to prefer
Friendship,
not
here on
to
the first
do that,
step.
though.
All right, so now that Hobbs has been through 2 floors, you can see there's one last little room here, and he'll get the boss key out of this, and then he's able to go and fight the boss of this dungeon immediately. We'll see if he decides whether to do that or not. Sometimes people decide to delay bosses until they have some better equipment, things like that, but you might just want to do it because you're right here and don't want to have to come back.
Oh, jeez. I thought I was going to die there. Right at the end. That would have not been fun. Oh, can I not get this because I don't... I don't have the thing that lets me kind of like hop over, right? Oh, yeah, I think I can't get this heart container, or piece of heart, whichever it is. That's unfortunate, but I can come back here if I need to. I'm going to try taking out the boss right now.
All right, Godspeed. So everybody appreciate the pun you're about to see on Hobbs' screen. Oh, you clicked out of it so fast. So this boss is named Gomarakas, which absolutely phenomenal name in my opinion. So the way this boss works is you essentially need to hit it in its eye, but you need to avoid all of the little babies that it spawns and the lasers that it shoots out of its eyes. So there's a lot of stuff to keep track of in this boss, especially because the little thorny plants also continue to grow and cover more and more of the field and take out more and more of your available space. Unfortunately, died to the baby.
Yeah. That's fine. That was...
Oh my gosh.
I saw that, Keys. Hey, at least you're not dying.
There we go. I
Why
let
did you say anything? There we go.
Let the boss thing stay up just a fraction longer this time.
I got a
All right,
fire
so
rod.
Keys managed to get the fire rod out of that, but also has to make a little bit of a tough decision between boots with some extra damage and the hover boots, which allow you to stay up in the air for three beats. So that can allow you to get past some things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to, or makes some puzzles a little bit easier.
I'm doing the damage only because the other boots are almost busted already, so I might as well get some sort of item out of it.
I respect that line of thinking.
That's the wrong line of thinking, I'm sure, but you know.
I actually support taking the damage there. I think you made the right call.
Yes! You hear that, Hobbs? I got approval.
I was too busy focusing and dying on a boss.
Oh
maybe
no,
don't do that.
Hobbs! Oh my god, he was so close!
Yeah, I started to get greedy and forgetting the concept of this game, which is to do all of your moves onto the beat. So I just started mashing a button, and that wasn't smart. I could have thought about 9 different ways to handle that if I had been a little more patient and played it cool.
That's another thing that I appreciate about this game is that it's very hard, but it's very fair. Like, when you mess up, it's like, well, there was this thing I could have done. Like, it's very, very rare to get into a situation where you die, and it's like, you know what, that was just kind of BS.
Alright.
You know what enemy I dislike the most? Wizrobes.
Oh, yeah, they're really, really annoying.
Like, it's not even that they're hard, it's just they're obnoxious. Yeah, I can... Wait.
All right, Hobbs got a lot of health here. You're doing well.
Yeah, so this time I'm not just gonna tank a million, like, spider webs, which is what I was doing last time.
Well done, well done. So Hobbs gets himself the maracas out of this. There is a total of 4 instruments that you need to collect, 1 from each boss. We've got 1 down for Hobbs. And Keys over on the right managed to find himself the water slippers. Is that what we decided they're called now?
Yes, they're water slippers.
Okay, he got himself the water slippers and can now go through the water here and get himself into the ice dungeon here. So now that he's got access to it, we'll see if he decides to go ahead and do the dungeon now.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Hobbs has the
okay.
dungeon. I can't let him.
Yeah.
Can't let him get away with this. If you haven't, like, not you in particular, but just you in general, if you haven't seen us do this show before, you'll find out that a lot of times we make decisions that we probably shouldn't make, but because we're very prideful and want to beat each other, we're just like, nah, if he did it, then I'm doing it.
Meanwhile,
I know that can be
Rugrats.
a huge motivator for people who want to get into speedrunning, actually. I think that's a great
Yeah,
segue.
rip
If you
faces.
are wanting to get into speedrunning, but you're intimidated by it, get a buddy and both of you get into it together. Like, you guys can learn things and teach each other. You guys can motivate each other. It's like, hey, I bopped your PB, you better get me back, and things like that. It's a great way to get into the game.
I really need these enemies to move so I can use this. Because this is the only way I know how to get over here.
I'm going to tell you how to do this without the hook shot once this race is over.
Yeah, I'll be very intrigued. Okay. And see, and last time I had the bow by now, so I could take them out from afar. I have a feeling it might have something to do with the bouncing on the lizard sword guys, but... No, I didn't want to fall. It was lining up perfectly finally.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with some of these like solutions you're trying to come up with, though. Like, definitely getting really creative with it here.
See, this is the kind of thing that I would look up if I were actually going to try to get into speedrunning this game. How? Come on, they've got to move eventually, right?
All right, well, while Hobbs struggles with this, Keys is making pretty quick work of this dungeon over here. Having 2 range and 3 damage thanks to his titanium weapon and the boots is definitely making this quite a bit faster. And a refresh on the damage
Yeah,
boost,
the
too.
game was nice enough. They're like, hey, we hear you want to do more damage. Now, we were asked something in chat about what our favorite weapons were, and you're seeing me with it. I love this longsword. It's my favorite. No ifs, ands, or buts.
I'm just gonna keep doing this and hope that this guy moves down.
I want the heal.
This is some dedication, Hobbs. I'm just so impressed right now.
I want him to do it, man. He's like, they've left an opportunity for me a couple times, but not when I have been on this tile. And I don't know if it's because they're moving based on where I am, and that's why, but I don't know what else to do.
You can always come back with other items or explore for other solutions.
Yeah, that's true. Or, oh, so close. Come on up here, guys.
Oh man, that moblin, like, literally on the beat just came in to block you there. That was not a nice move on his part there.
He's gonna do it again, though. Yeah, I guess we're gonna go on to somewhere else. Oh man, I wanted it though.
that was a death warp there. You wanted to
Yes.
leave, and so intentional death, obviously.
Yes, I still don't think I've figured out how to get over here yet, though. So it looks like I need to go up this way, based on what I've uncovered from this map, which would mean that I'd have to get over to where I am where I'm trying to go anyways. So I guess we'll just start exploring other parts of the map. Like, yeah, we'll go over here.
Yeah, I got the spear, and I'm wondering if I should titanium that up too, because at least I get to keep my shield usage.
Keys is literally developing the Link meta before our eyes right now.
See, now you understand, Hobbs, why I accidentally picked this character on purpose.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so we mentioned this earlier, but Hobbs and I both agreed before this race started that, oh yeah, let's do Zelda. Hobbs flipped a unbiased coin to get to his decision.
Yes. Very unbiased.
And I out of habit, I just mashed through and picked Link anyway, so oops.
Yo, nice. I want these boots to stay with me. Hey, I got a fire rod. I don't know if I actually got that last time. Now
I think you actually
those
missed
for
a
stuff.
pretty decent number of items
Yeah.
just in general. So this is like half of a blind playthrough again.
Yeah. Now, I don't think I can do anything here right now. I'm pretty sure I need to come back later. But I'm
Hookshot.
gonna
Yes!
check really quick.
I did it.
Yeah, I need to come back later. So now that I have a ranged thing, I'm gonna go back to bashing my head against the same spot.
We are going to get into this dungeon
It'll
one way
happen.
or the other. So Keys has himself a really timely set of boots here. The iron boots allow him to just walk freely on the ice without actually slipping like you would otherwise. So this is pretty much like the best place in the game to have those boots right now. All right.
Wiz Robo.
Let's watch the right-hand screen right here for Wiz Robo, one of the other amazingly named bosses in this game. Casually speaking, I definitely struggled with this one the most. It's a pretty tricky boss, just in terms of like what his patterns are like. So let's see how Keys is able to handle this here.
Guys, I did it.
Well done, Hobbs.
Oops.
So Keys got pretty good damage on the boss here. One thing to keep in mind is the bosses actually scale as far as how many previous bosses you've killed as well. Each boss has an easier and a harder version. So since this is his first boss that he's facing, this is the
Easy.
weaker version of Wiz Robo. Got him. Good
I
job,
got an
Keys.
oboe. Yes. Hobbs, I beat a dungeon.
Hey.
Aren't you proud of me?
I am. I'm in a second one.
Oh. Well,
So despite the dungeon counts here, I think this is actually still a very close race because Keys has the better equipment, even though
Yeah.
he's only got the one dungeon. And I think Keys has probably covered more of the overworld, just in terms of the number of tiles he's been to. So in terms of how they're doing, this is a very, very close race right now.
How are you doing on health right now, Keys? How many?
I have 5.
I have 7, so that's at least nice for me.
What the heck?
Yeah. I did a lot of not being able to figure out where to go.
That's fair.
The end game to this game is actually very brutal as well. There's 2 long dungeons and a couple of tough boss fights. So especially for newer runners like this, even if you come in to that area second, if you've got some extra health and some extra safety, that might definitely be what pushes you to retaking the lead at the end, especially if there's a few untimely deaths.
Okay. Yay, oh, so many things dropped hearts right there.
See, I finally found one of the gears, but I care not, for I have my locket. Goodbye. Wait. Dang it.
Oh, so you didn't have to use the gears at all to get through that one section? No! Oh, that sucks. I had the plus damage boots. I really wanted to keep those. All right,
Oh man, the
I'm gonna
mummy
grab that.
pushed you down the hole too for the last half heart of damage.
Yeah.
That's just rude.
That mummy's team keys. Press 1 in chat if you're team keys. Press 2 if you're team Hobbs.
I think I'm gonna rock the spear for a little bit and deal with some extra range instead of the poison damage.
Yeah, so I actually missed when Hobbs picked it up, but he had an interesting dagger there. It's a poison dagger, so it will do 1 damage on its initial hit, but after a few beats, it will actually deal a little bit of extra damage to the enemies as well. So you can hit some guys and then leave them with a heart or 2 and just walk away and hope for that, and they'll die from the poison damage later. It doesn't work on any undead enemies, unfortunately, so it's not quite as good as it sounds, but it's still useful. Better than just a basic dagger, obviously.
Okay, this dungeon layout so far seems a little better.
And if you're looking on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see how Keys was literally just able to stroll through the lava there thanks to some of the items he's found. So it's a really nice set of items to have for bypassing the whole gear mechanic.
I don't know which item I want. Oh no.
Cool.
That's a pretty decent pool of items in the dungeon pool or chests here. Definitely. You had the bow, you had the drum, and the hook shot all in there. Those are all very good.
Do I want the bow or do I want the drum?
I'm grabbing the bow.
I don't remember what
Just
Rito
'cause I used it.
Feather is. I think it's the thing that pops you up in the air. I'm gonna grab the drum. I found the drum to be really, really useful for me.
All right, so we're seeing the evolution of the strategy of these two runners. They spent most of their time exploring the overworld at first, but now it's time for some dungeon rushing. You can see both of them in dungeons at the same time here, trying to push that boss count. They're really eager to scale up the enemies on the overworld and make them harder for themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Like I said, have you seen the first step? This is us.
Wow, he knocked me
bad
into the
luck
stairs.
from Keys there. He spent a key on opening up a golden chest in the dungeon, which has a random weapon in it. And unfortunately, the one he opened was an item for Cadence, which is a character from Necrodancer, which we will unlock later in the story, but unfortunately completely worthless right now.
I'm gonna pick it up though. I didn't mean to skip it, but there you go.
I feel like they patched in that little text that says Cadence only on it, because I remember when this game came out, I thought it was a shovel that you would use to dig like the other shovels, and I picked it up and I was like, why is this not in my inventory? It must be bugged. Keys showing off the power of the two-handed sword there. Having all of that range and the extra damage just allows him to really slaughter these bosses quickly. Or the mini-bosses, I should say. Although he does have his boss key now, probably moving on to the boss of the dungeon now.
Sure am.
Everybody, watch the right-hand side of the screen for the pun.
Oh, I don't have a key yet.
Bass guitar most nights.
Yeah, pretty decent take to say it's the best part of the game.
I would have to agree.
The puns are pretty good.
I believe it was Family Jules that played the bass guitar for this part. Shoutouts to Family Jules and his amazing guitar work.
Come back, wizard.
All right, now I just need to find the other dungeons.
So we're at 2 and 2 dungeons apiece now, is that correct?
Believe
I'm
so?
in the second one. I have not completed
In the
it.
second dungeon. Dang, so Key's kind of pulling ahead on the dungeon count there.
I have an entire half of the map I haven't seen yet. Holy
Yeah,
moly.
I kind of do too.
Oh, so we are rapidly approaching a time where we would normally take a break. We usually do about an hour, and then we'll take a few minute break to run some ads, use the bathroom, get some water. And so some of the reason that we do that is just to kind of show you guys, if it's your first run, you don't necessarily have to sit through the whole thing. Like, you can do it in little segments just to wet your beak a little, get more comfortable with the game. So pretty much, Hobbs, whenever you're ready to take a break, I'm ready to take a break.
Let me just kind of get through this room, and then that'll be perfect timing, because I just got the boss key.
So something I find quite interesting, you both have 2 dungeons, but they are 2 completely different dungeons from each other. So between the 2 of you, you have all 4 dungeons finished.
Hey, surprise, it's a co-op run.
Okay, I am good if you are, Keys.
All right, 3, 2, 1, pause.
All right. And with that, we will go to a little break, run a few ads. Remember, everybody, that Hotfix is supported in part by your subscriptions and your ads and any bits and anything like that that you want to contribute with. So if you've been enjoying this show or any of the other Hotfix shows we've been having, please consider turning off ad block, watching some of the ads, or subscribing if you got like that Twitch Prime sub or anything like that sitting around. And we will see you all in a few minutes here, just about 4 minutes. Welcome back from the break, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. And we are going to be getting continued here because I'm about to go face another boss. I honestly don't remember which one this is about to be. And Keys, I don't know what you're doing, but I'm sure you're about to
I'm staring at a map.
travel. So with that in mind, in 3, 2, 1, let's go. I'm going to immediately switch, actually, my weapon and some stuff around here because I found a certain strategy to work pretty well for me in this, which was spam all of the like scrolls as soon as actually I could do that. Spam all of the scrolls that I have that will buff me as soon as I enter a boss, and also use the war drum. So I'm gonna do that now.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking forward to seeing
cheating.
how you tackle this one, Hobbs, and I recommend keep your eyes on the left-hand side of the screen for the boss fight here. This was a bit of a tough one for Hobbs in his casual playthrough, I know. Although he was fighting the harder version of it in his casual, this is now the easier version that he's facing. So the training, or the weights have come off. This is like the easy version now. Made quick work of all the heads there, just has to deal with the body now.
Alright, well, that was easy. So, yeah.
I definitely think that boss scales the hardest on the second version of it. Like, the heads just have a lot more health and do so much damage on the more difficult version. When I do runs, I always try and do Glockenspiel as one of the first ones.
Yeah, I did, because I remembered having so much trouble with it, I did try to put it earlier, which is why I went here, like, immediately.
Yes!
And then didn't know how to get a cross without the hook shot, so...
I'm so happy.
Are now going to go back to our pal, the fortune teller.
Keys, did you only just now get the loot? I didn't
Yep.
even notice. Oh my god.
I've done all this the hard way because I didn't know where the crap it was.
That's pretty funny.
Something I
So now
should
that you
have
both
done.
have it, I can tell you that the loot actually has several different locations that it can be in, and it's sort of a progressive pickup where whichever one of those you come to first, it will be in. So there's a.
How did I not find it until then? What the heck?
Oh yeah, and I'm going to switch back to range now while I'm just kind of in the overworld.
Oh, I'm not remembering that at all.
So since the two runners have done different sets of dungeons from each other and kind of have done opposite ends of the map, we're likely to basically see kind of a flip-flop between them where they're going to cover ground that the other one has already been through. But they are now going to be doing it with a lot more health and equipment than the other one did at the time. So let's see who's able to conquer that with the better equipment a little bit quicker than the other.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling a lot more comfortable, especially now that I just got a health potion. Because that will automatically revive me if I ever lose my health. Which...
Yeah, so it's essentially doubling the health pool that Hobbs has to work with here. So instead of 8 hearts, he effectively has 16 to work with now.
You know what? I was going to go for that, but I don't actually know how to get to it, so I'm going to go ahead and just...
Some of these desert heart pieces are pretty tricky to figure out how to get to with the different rocks you have to manipulate.
Okay, so... I actually didn't, like, press the button for this one casually to figure out how to do this, but I should do that this time. Oh, was that it?
I found it extra funny because you haven't played a Zelda game before, you said,
Yeah.
so like these aren't songs that are incredibly ingrained in your head.
Yeah.
Oops. This button.
Okay,
Wait,
cool. Hey, got a power glove.
dang it.
Another piece of heart. All right. If I remember right, the trick with this one.
Ah! What just happened?
Okay, there, Keys.
I'm in danger.
It can be real tricky because the statues can come to life even after you have moved into free movement mode because of killing all the enemies on the screen. So you're not completely safe just because it lets you move quickly.
I don't know if I need to talk to this person for some reason. I don't think so.
That's it. I don't feel safe.
Oh boy, Keys, you've stumbled across
Aw.
a really cool strat, but unfortunately, it's very dangerous to hop in there with 1 heart.
It was a death warp. No big deal.
Oh, I had so much trouble with these things.
You remember how to kill them though, right?
Yes, I did. It took a second, but I did remember.
There we go.
I was sitting here like, why am I not doing more damage than usual? It's because I accidentally still have the spear. Oops.
All right, so you can see Hobbs over on the left-hand side is grabbing the gears out of here because he doesn't have that Goron locket like Keys had to be able to get in here a little bit earlier. So it does have to take the time to grab these gears, but it's not too huge of a deal in the context of a run that will be as long as this. It's mostly about, pretty much like from here on out, it's mostly about who dies the least.
Yeah, the only thing that sucks is I just lost my shovel, so I'm going to go back in here and get it back. Oh no, does it despawn? That's unfortunate. So, I could go get a new shovel from somewhere else, or I could just use bombs. So I think we're gonna do that.
You've got the spirit of a speedrunner in you.
Puppy, why are you barking? I'm uncomfortable right now. There we go. Alright, third dungeon. And I distinctly remember I don't really like this one.
And you're encountering it third, so the enemies will be scaled up as well.
Isn't that just great for you? Whoa, how did that... Okay, so that bomb got moved by the enemy spawning. Interesting.
Oops.
Key's Galaxy Brain over here, realizing that shield upgrade he has actually allows him to move through the wind currents there and allows him to bypass an entire floor of this dungeon. Very well done there.
I used my brain.
Did you find that on your first playthrough?
Yes.
Well done, well done.
I'm sad. You're not supposed to be finding things.
Excuse me?
I don't know. I didn't find anything.
Good.
I just did okay.
Let me have one. You have a
does
3-game
not-
winning streak. You can buffer a little bit, man.
That trick actually doesn't work with Zelda. It requires a shield that only Link can hold, unfortunately. So you didn't
even
miss finding
funnier.
anything, Hobbs.
That's even funnier. Take that, Hobbs.
I'm out of bombs now, so I really need something to give me a shovel, although I don't think any of the enemies in this area do.
Well, help me for later, I guess.
Oh, that was silly. Yeah, so... Oh, interesting. Did not realize that I could use the ball to to break the...
Hobbs getting
No,
his
you're not supposed to be
revenge. Keys
finding
learned
things.
something, and so Hobbs learned something right back.
Yeah, that's not fair.
It's an education fight over here.
Stay in school, kids. I don't see a great way to get up there, though.
Ow!
I guess I could use the power rope.
Are you rethinking that thing you said earlier, Keys, about the Wiz Robos being the most obnoxious enemy?
Yes. Yes, very much so. I take everything back. It's them. 100% them.
So which weapon was that? Oh, excellent. I got a titanium dagger, so I just got more damage.
Alright, so both runners are now on 2 damage. That's a pretty big help for taking these enemies out. Keys does still have the range advantage, but, you know, Hobbs gets the reflector, so I think it's about even.
I'm overwhelmed right now. I don't like this.
That is a serious mob.
Okay. Now I got a shovel, too, so this will just make this a little faster.
Hobbs making excellent use, or sorry, not Hobbs. Keys making excellent use of the narrow passageway and his long range here to thin that mob out. Very well done.
There goes that shovel I had. Oh yeah, wait,
I think
don't
glass
I-
shattered is probably the most common thing I ever see in this game.
Ouch.
Hey, I remembered I had a thing that probably would have helped me like forever ago.
Oh, that was rude.
Yeah, let's do it.
Keys got pretty lucky there. He got grabbed by the wall master there, which takes you to a random place in the dungeon. Fortunately, it set him down right next to where he had just been picked up from, so no real loss there.
What a friend, Nat.
Not liking how low on health I'm getting here, but...
All right, things still staying pretty close. Keys is finishing up his third dungeon now, and HobZ is finishing up his entrance to the third dungeon as well. So still keeping it fairly close. HobZ, even if he's a little bit behind on the dungeons, does have a pretty significant health advantage. So as far as handling the late game stuff, that could come into play in a pretty big way. In particular, the final dungeon is 4 floors long instead of 2 and has a lot of very high level enemies in it, and you start the whole thing over if you die. So deaths there are extremely costly, so that extra health could really play a pretty big factor.
I'm actually not sure how to...
Glockenspiel.
Okay, so pay attention to the right-hand side of the screen here. Keys is encountering this as its harder version. You'll notice that when HobZ fought it, it was yellow. It's now black and red. So the enemies are more health and more damage. So this is definitely a much harder version of the fight than what HobZ had to do. Although that extra range and damage there is coming in real handy.
Oh! I meant to go left.
Goodness gracious,
okay.
You were so close too.
That's okay. I might have lost some stuff, but I still have the sword. That's what matters to me.
Unfortunately lost out on the damage boots, so not quite as much damage as before, but 2 damage from the sword is still pretty good.
I'm assuming that
HobZ,
other chest has the gear in it, but I actually don't know how to get it. Yeah, this is where not remembering things starts to really cause some trouble.
Did you get this in your first playthrough? I can't remember.
I don't know.
Did you?
I thought it had a gear in it, but if it doesn't have a gear in it, then I might not have gotten it. I figured I had to use like the glove, but I guess not.
Having multiple ways to approach these problems is definitely interesting from a gameplay perspective because you can learn lots of different solutions with different items, but it is also a little bit harder to learn the game just because there's a lot of different ways to approach things that may not be immediately obvious. Keys unfortunately dying to a Glockenspiel once again, showing how much...
that time I knew exactly what I did wrong.
Let's try this. I don't think I used one of these items at all. Oh, hey!
Oh, I did it again.
I never used that item in my casual playthrough. So,
well
cool.
done. Good job.
I just read it and it said, like, it'll move forward. It's a bomb that moves forward or something. So I was like, I'm out of regular bombs. Maybe that'll work.
So I think that's actually something where you were a little bit disadvantaged by not having played Zelda, because bomb shoes are a thing in Zelda that's kind of an item that shows up a few times. So you would have seen it and known that it's just a bomb that crawls forward if you had played the games they were from before.
How dare this game reward people who have played Zelda games before?
Unspeakable. So you can see HobZ now into the third dungeon while Keys is struggling a bit with this boss here. So definitely leaving the door open for HobZ to keep the dungeon count completely even here.
Does that work? No. So let's use more of these. Really would like to get these boots for the extra damage. Dig through certain walls. Does not include these walls.
Yeah, I believe only glass shovels can dig through those, unfortunately.
Oops. The range kind of cost me there. I didn't mean to attack him.
Oh, you got yourself stunned accidentally. Oh, goodness. This boss can just get out of hand so quickly, like when there's tons of fireballs and electricity and like the heads start bouncing all around the arena there. It's they just deal so much damage so quickly too. You really can't afford a whole lot of hits from the stray heads here.
There we go. Play that a little bit smarter. I love finding a blue chest early in one of these dungeons because it'll, like Roos has brought up before, it will just immediately tell us where the next objective is, whether it be the enemy room that has keys in it or the enemy room that has like the actual exit.
Well, the enemy room that has keys in it is the boss key, or is the boss room right now.
I knew I was leaving myself open.
It was too easy. I couldn't turn it down. All right. Keys looks like he's got this boss step pattern down a little bit better. Coming in at this with full health here. Most of the head's dead here.
Not another one of these.
Looks like he's deciding to slow us down a little bit, take his time, and make sure this boss dies on this
There we go.
attempt. Well done. Very good job.
Much better. I think that was damageless too.
Yeah,
Amazing
still
what
at full
happens if you
health.
slow down a tiny bit.
Right.
So JHobz over on the left-hand side there making great use of an item called the War Drum, which is a little bit unintuitive to use sometimes. Basically, you get to stay in place. When you use it, you stay in place for 1 beat, and it buffs the damage you're going to do on the next hit. So because that enemy likes to come up when he's 2 squares away from you, making it difficult to hit with a one-range weapon, you can just hit that War Drum, let it come to you for 1 beat, and do some extra damage as well.
Ooh, I got very low. Oh no. Please could everything stop hitting me at the same time?
Oh my god, JHobz. You are a brave person to jump into that mob like that. Well done. So if you look at Keys' screen, you'll notice a lot of the enemies seem to have much more dark colorations to them now. Basically, because he's killed 3 bosses, these overworld enemies have all scaled up to their harder versions. That means more health, that means more damage. So fortunately, we do have pretty good equipment for dealing with this, but you do have to keep in mind that everything is quite a bit more lethal now that we've fought 3 bosses. Because of that reason, a lot of times you'll see runners basically do what these guys actually ended up doing, where you do all the stuff you want to do in the overworld first, and then you tackle the dungeons right at the end, so you don't have to deal with scaled up enemies for very long. JHobz needs to be real careful here. Not a lot of health, and I believe you burned your potion already.
Yeah. If I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, it's gone. I meant to go get it back. Which I could do right now. Might not be the worst idea.
Wait for me.
All right, so we're at
Awesome mimic! Ah!
Oh no, goodness. Yeah, those always freak me out every time. JHobz debating whether it's time to take on this boss or not. Oh, with 1 heart, that's a tough boss to have to deal with too. Oh boy.
Oh!
Well done.
No!
Well done.
I forgot there was
Fortunately,
another room!
Oh no! I literally cannot tell you how many times I've actually died to that room because I push it really hard in the previous floor and I'm like at 1 heart. I'm like, okay, we're in the clear, and then just don't think about
Oh,
those
I forgot
guys.
there was going to be another room. Otherwise, I would have probably bailed, or at least as soon as I got in there, I would have bailed to go get a potion. Now I can probably at least get to the boss before getting the potion. But
Okay, so on your right-hand screen, time to find out if Keys was telling the truth when he said he knew the trick on how to get through Lost Woods.
Would I lie about something like that?
I spent a lot of time on that, so like you would save quite a bit of time if you do know what you're talking about. I also like didn't notice the entrance to the doorway to go get the item that like tells you for free.
Yeah, one of those things. No, I don't need it.
Oh man, does he? I think he does. Oh, Keys with the Galaxy Brain plays.
All right, so what's
So,
the trick?
JHobz, do you want me to reveal the secret to you?
Yeah, because I've already gone through it.
So on each screen, there is exactly 1 enemy that's stronger than the others. Like it'll be a stronger version or a different stronger enemy, and it will start next to one of the exits. The exit with the stronger enemy is always the direction you need to go.
Gotcha.
I had to be told that too. I did not realize that on my own.
Yeah, I was looking for a pattern too when I first was playing through it.
So Keys, did you just like notice that on your own, or did somebody in chat tell you?
Hell no, someone told me because they got tired of me being stuck here for an hour. Plus, like, I don't know if this was correct or not, but like I remember the item that's like supposed to give you a hint, like it mentioned something about like rumble, and I have a controller that doesn't have rumble.
Oh no.
So I just kind of assumed like, oh, well, I kind of just don't have a way to do this.
Oh, well, that was silly. How do I actually get over here? Do I have a way? I must have a way to get over here, right?
Oh, you have a different set of items than when you came through here before. You do have a way past it. That's all I will say.
Well, it wasn't that.
I feel like I shouldn't have said that, actually. That probably gave you the wrong impression. I will say that, like, you don't need to leave the dungeon for more items or anything.
Oops. Maybe I'll just, like, maybe it's guaranteed that, like, hover boots will be down here or something. I'll clear this out. Well, that was ignore ice. That's not exactly what I'm looking for.
Not quite what you're after here.
There we go.
Oh, well.
That's a little better. Well, let me double check. Oh, no, okay, those actually don't work. Alright. I thought slippers would work because they say ignore terrain. But really, they're lying.
Oops.
None of that helps.
They ignore a lot of...
Welcome back to GDQ Hotfix, everybody. And for a weird one, one that's kind of out of the normal order of things, we're going to be wrapping... Oh, hi, it's me 4 times that you guys are all seeing. Excellent. Excellent. I was hoping this would happen. We'll get that fixed up. But in the meantime, I guess since I'm the only one here 4 times over, I'll tell you what's going on today. I'll get through this, I swear. We are going to be wrapping up the first step from yesterday. We ran into some technical difficulties. We had to stop the race as my internet completely destroyed itself.
I'm crying right
and
now.
Our restreamer Richard was also on that internet, so there was no chance of us finishing it that night. So we're going to be wrapping it up. Eventually, there will be less of me on this screen, I promise, and you'll be seeing my co-host Keizaron at some point. We'll see if you can even hear Keizaron. Let's find out. Hey, Keys,
Hello?
how are you doing?
Hi, can you hear? I'm like crying over here.
Hey, chat, let me know if you can hear Keys. That'd be great.
I need to pull up the channel.
Oh, man.
I gotta see this.
Well, like I said, we ran into... Oh, hey, I think you're finally seeing Keys. Awesome.
Am I here?
We ran into some technical difficulties yesterday, but...
I loaded up the stream right when you're looking up.
Oh, professional broadcast, everybody. All right, so what happened yesterday was we got to a point we basically just stopped. Oh, well, that's definitely not the right thing either that you're now seeing. Hold on. Why don't we go back to a break screen? You know what? I'm going to call an audible on this one. We'll get this sorted out. No, we're going back to a break screen. We'll get this sorted, and we'll see you all in just a couple minutes.
Oh man.
Welcome back, everybody, to Far Less JHobz.
I hope.
We're going to leave all of this in the recording. It's going to be amazing. In any case... We're now properly joined by me, JHobz, and Keizaron, and we have Roos SR on commentary, who's going to be helping us out just like yesterday because it is impossible to talk about this game while it's happening.
Hello, pleasure to be back.
How are you doing, Roos? Yeah.
I'm doing just fine. I feel like I'm no longer outnumbered by JHobz quite as much, which is unfortunate.
Oh man, that was
I agree. I agree with this.
that was something. All right. Well, now that we've gotten that all ironed out, I was trying to say that we had to stop the race yesterday from technical difficulties, but because we were able to just save this game pretty much wherever you are, we just did a save and quit at the same time, and we are just going to continue from there. Where we already normally take breaks like during this race and everything, so not going to be a problem there. And we're just going to pick it up from here and see who finishes first. I think Keys was further along, but I had a few more options for my health and stuff. So
I'd like to just point out that I think because we had to pause this and I have a little lead right now, I deserve one pity compliment because I'm probably going to lose.
No.
Yes. Give me my pity
I
compliment.
don't think that's how it's... Okay, Keys, you're very good at coming up with strategies for Pokemon Sword and Shield that don't end up panning out at 1:30 in the morning.
God, it was 5:30 in the morning, man. All right, yep. All right, I'm motivated.
All right, well, let's get going with this. If we're all good for restreaming, if Railkin wants to give us a yes or no, then we can be ready to go. All right. Well, then, Keys, count us down. Actually, we got Roos in here. Roos, you want to count us down from 3 to go?
Absolutely. Okay, you guys both ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's get going in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so while these guys get themselves fixed back up, I'm going to give you guys a quick recap on how this game works as well as how the race went yesterday. So this game is a rhythm-based roguelike. It takes place on a grid, and you can kind of think of it as being turn-based, and a turn takes place on every single beat of the music. So enemies will all have some pretty specific AI patterns that they'll take every beat of the music, and you can take one action per beat as well. So think of it as being turn-based, but turns happen very, very quickly. So you're going to explore around the world, try and beat some dungeons, get some boss items, and improve your power and health and things like that to get better items to take on the 4 bosses as well as the final gauntlet of bosses as well. As far as how the race proceeded yesterday, the way that we're standing right now, Keizaron is ahead on dungeons. He's done all 4 of the overworld dungeons and is now basically headed into the end game and has pretty good equipment. He has some extra range and some extra damage. Now, what he doesn't have is any extra bottles with potions in them. Now, potions basically let you get a redo on a life once you die. It refills your hearts back up. JHobz, he's finishing up his 3rd dungeon right now. This is his 3rd boss. Still needs to do one more dungeon after this, but he does have one of those potions, and so he has the advantage of safety. And the end of this game is really, really dangerous. So if he's going to have any, if Keizaron has any trouble with the end game, then that's definitely going to leave the window open for JHobz to get back into this. So I would still call this a fairly close race. As far as you two runners, how are you feeling about your positions in this race right now?
I'm feeling good that I'm further in this boss than I got last time, but I'm still pretty low.
Oh boy. Okay, so you can see on the left-hand side here that Hobbs is taking on the base Guitarmos Knights boss, which got a ton of health here. They definitely take a while to work your way down.
Yes.
Well done, well done.
Okay. I just had to circle around the bass guitar real quick before I could pick it up, because I'm just getting warmed back up into the game. We didn't do like any, warm-up or practice or anything like that before starting this, so. Now the question is, do I remember where the fortune teller is?
So the structure of this game, if you didn't watch yesterday or if you guys have forgotten, there is a Zelda-style overworld, and it's randomly generated, so the players both have to explore around and find not only their dungeons, but also some landmarks like this fortune teller right here that can help the players find out where their next goals are. In particular, Hobbs wants to find out where the 4th dungeon that he needs to go is. So he's going to this fortune teller that can point it out to him. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, Keizaron is in Hyrule Castle, which you can only gain access to once you've beaten all 4 of your bosses. And so he's exploring around in here, trying to pick up some items to use for the end game, because the dungeons in the end game are really, really long and have very high-level enemies in them. So if you are worried about dying, you definitely want to bring in some high-level equipment. More damage, more range, more safety, things like that.
That's the wrong button. Dang it.
Looks like Hobbs has located his 4th dungeon here, so definitely good for him to have found that. You don't want to spend too much time on the overworld here when your opponent is already into Hyrule Castle. Okay,
cool. That didn't take too long. It took me a little bit when I first played this to figure out how to actually wake up the king or whatever it is that you're trying to do there. I don't remember. I don't... Oh, I do have the flippers. Okay. I couldn't remember if I had them or if he just gave them to me.
All right, so JHobz is now getting himself into the 4th dungeon. Meanwhile, over on the right-hand side, you can see Keizaron has entered the Hyrule Castle dungeon. Now, Hyrule Castle has 3 floors to it, unlike the others, which have 2. And each of those floors is going to require a small key. And if you look in the top left, you can see that Keys does not have any keys right now. So he's going to have to find 3 on his way. Each floor is guaranteed to have enough to proceed on to the next one, but if you come in here with any extras, it can cut some time out from keeping you from having to search around for them. One very nice thing that Keys has going for him here, you can see that he's got some long-range weapons. Right now he's using a glass spear. Glass weapons are breakable, but they do quite a bit of damage. So if he can hold on to that for a while, he's going to be killing these enemies very quickly. But even if he loses that, he does have the longsword, and in particular he has a titanium longsword, which does 2 damage as its base value. So he can still keep himself pretty safe with long range and do pretty good damage to the enemies. Hobbs also has a titanium weapon, so he's doing the 2 damage as well, but it's just a dagger, so it's only 1 range, so he does have to get himself a little bit closer. Now, if you'll notice that the 2 of them are playing different characters, Hobbs is playing Zelda, and Keizaron is playing Link. There are some very minor differences between the 2. For example, each one has a unique weapon, so Zelda can't actually use that 2-handed sword that Keys is using. Zelda instead gets a rapier that can lunge forward. And they also have a different defensive ability. So Hobbs is going to have access to a reflector that allows him to rebound any damage that comes towards him back onto enemies on the beat that they hit him. So it's if you time it well, it's a very, very powerful ability. And Keizaron is going to have access to just a shield that he can hold out in front of him. Now, you can't actually use that while you're using the 2-handed sword, so that is the downside of that. But in exchange, you're getting like a lot of damage and a lot of range, so you're just hoping to keep yourself safe by killing enemies before they get to you while you're using the 2-handed sword.
Oh, whoops. I was not managing my health very well there, so took a spill instead of just like reflecting. I was not thinking clearly.
So it's important to keep in mind that these dungeon layouts are randomly generated, and they also get randomly regenerated when you die and re-enter. So this layout that Hobbs is facing now is not the same as the one that he was on before. So you definitely want to try to avoid dying after entering a dungeon if at all possible. And that's particularly costly in 2 late game dungeons. So the one that Keys is in right now has 3 floors that can all get randomly reshuffled. And then there's one more dungeon after this that actually has 4 floors and quite a few very high level enemies. So deaths there cost a lot of time.
Okay, I'm just happy to have found the compass now because that was something I was hoping for last time that I didn't end up finding.
So to do a little bit more recap on the game for people who may have not seen this yesterday, the basic idea behind this game is that it's all on the rhythm of the music, and enemies in particular do not have any randomness to them. They all have pretty strict AI patterns. With some very, very minor exceptions. And so the skill of this game is really just getting to know the enemies very, very well to the point where you know what they're going to do ahead of time, and you can take advantage of their AI to attack them during weak points or be able to work your way around them. Now, some of their AI is actually fairly complicated, so it can be hard to learn what they do. Like, for example, this enemy that Hobbs is fighting right now, not exactly a super straightforward enemy, but once you do know what they are going to be doing, you can always predict them correctly.
Okay, cool. Through the first room, so that means I got one more to go in this area. I know Keys is probably powering through right now.
This is awkward.
Now this enemy that Keys is fighting here is a little tough because if you attack it from the front side, it's got a shield up until it exposes itself by trying to attack you. So he had to wait until it tried to hit him and then get it while its guard was down. Fortunately managed to make it through with all the damage and range that he's got. He is a little low on life, and as I mentioned earlier, does not have a safety potion, so if he loses those 3.5 hearts he's got, he is going to have to start the entire dungeon over again. Fortunately, enemies can drop health in this game, unlike Necrodancer, the previous game made by this developer. This game does have quite a few roguelike characteristics to it, but fortunately permadeath is not one of them unless you specifically turn on the permanent death mode. Basically, once you die, you'll just have to go back to some Sheikah stones you can activate on the map. You'll lose your rupees and some of your items, but you don't have to completely start the entire map over again. Hobbs making excellent work of this ring of courage that he's got. So rings, you can carry one at a time, and they have some pretty powerful effects. The one that he has is very useful because on a beat, if you kill an enemy, you'll lunge towards them, and you're actually immune to damage on that beat when you lunge as well. So it can allow you to get really aggressive like this, and just, like, as long as you're killing an enemy on every beat, you can't take any damage. You can just dive into mobs really quickly. Oh, unfortunate.
So much for that ring.
Now, fortunately, the way these dungeons work, on the overworld at least, once you finish the first floor, you unlock basically a way to get to the second floor. So he just has to start the second floor over, not the first one, because that block was moved into the way that allows him to get here now.
Oh, spoopy. I'm super almost dead.
Yeah, Key's stuck on one heart here. He is close to the end of the dungeon, but any stray hit is going to be the end of his adventure in this dungeon. He's going to have to start the whole thing over again.
Yeah, so far I haven't been able to really make use of the fact that I have a bottle for health potions because I've just been so low on rupees for so long now.
Yeah, so
I'd really like to go back and get one, but
even though there is no permadeath, you do lose all your money, and buying those safety potions does cost 80 rupees every time you want to do it. And so if you die, it can take you a pretty good long while to recover 80 rupees again. Now, I've seen a few people in chat asking basically what happens if you don't play according to the rhythm of the beat. You are required by the game, you can put in a max of one input per beat. So you're limited to being able to do a maximum of one action every beat. You don't have to do something though. If you just want to skip your turn, you can just stand there. Now what will happen is the enemies will still take their turn, so it's kind of like you're giving up a turn when you do that. But you know, if you don't want to move this beat, you don't have to. You also lose your beat multiplier, which is not super important in this game. The only things that it modifies is it increases the amount of treasure you get from some enemies, and there are certain kinds of weapons. They're called obsidian weapons. You can get obsidian daggers, obsidian spears. The obsidian weapons will deal damage equal to how high your beat multiplier is, between 1 and 3. So if you've got an obsidian weapon, you want to keep your beat going constantly, but if you don't, then it's not really super critical to keep it going at all times.
Hooray.
Alright, Keys managed to make it through despite being on one heart. Now he is about to go face a tough boss with just 4 hearts, and this is one of the harder bosses in the game. Some people would say it's actually harder than the final boss. This is one of the new enemies that was made up for this game. His name is Octavo, and he basically wants to, he's trying to stop Ganon in the future, so he needs to destroy Hyrule now. To do that, don't really ask me the details of it because it doesn't make any sense, but we need to fight him now. So if you keep your eyes on the right-hand screen just for the moment, this is a very tough boss fight with a lot of stuff going on. Not only does Octavo teleport around and shoot fireballs at you, but a lot of the enemies from the previous 4 bosses also will make their way in as well. So like these little guys that are shooting ice around, those were from one of the bosses as well. And each time you deal enough damage to Octavo to get him to go back up to the top here, it's going to cycle through to a new set of minions that will spawn in. So you can see now the knights from the base Guitarmos are showing up. Now Keys is putting out good damage, but is at 4 hearts, so needs to be careful. Keep these minions under control. If it gets too far out of control, it can get really deadly very, very fast.
Whew, I'm having a lot of trouble with this dungeon. Just playing a little too risky trying to catch up.
Yeah, and it's a bit unfortunate you've been stuck on one range. Once you get to a second range, but still decent damage, that makes a lot of these fights quite a bit easier. As you can see on Keys' side, oh no, Keys takes a death to the dragon head there. The dragon heads are really quite tricky. They move diagonally, and they have a little bit of not inconsistent, but hard to predict movement when they bounce off of walls because they wait a beat before moving again. So when you're trying to pay attention to 20 different things on screen, trying to calculate exactly where those dragon heads are going to be can get very, very tough. So not super surprising to take some deaths to them every now and then.
See, I'm gonna say something that's totally gonna sound like, oh yeah, I totally meant to do that, but like I wanted to go into this fight even with the low health just because I didn't quite remember it, so I didn't mind taking a death.
Getting the scouting information.
Pretty much.
I'm really glad I used that bomb there. That helped me a lot.
Nicely done. So JHobz is now through his 4th and final dungeon. So even though Keiz is on this boss here, keep in mind the hardest, most difficult dungeon and the final boss still remain for him, and he does not have the potion currently, so he could very, very easily get brickwalled by this for a while. So if JHobz can make quick work of these final dungeons, then he can absolutely make a comeback. And I watched the stream that JHobz did, his casual playthrough, and I don't want to put any pressure on you, JHobz, but you did first try all of these in your first playthrough.
I did. That is true. Oh, where
So,
am I
you know, nothing to live up to or anything.
All right. So now I can go up to this boss. Let's see what I'm got on items and stuff. I don't have a whole lot of health. I've got something that can increase my armor. I got a scroll of need. Let's see what it gives me. Oh, it gave me a fairy.
Very nice. So the fairy is basically a replacement for the potion. It's just like in regular Zelda games. It lets you get an extra lease on life, essentially. Keiz is at half a heart. Very, very dangerous, and there's a lot of bosses running around. Oh, goodness. He just needs to poke the octopus one more time. Oh, got cornered by the Lionel there, though. That was a tough place to be in. I don't think you really had much of a way out of there at that point.
See, here's the thing is, I remember beating this boss fast enough that I'm not sure I actually learned really how it works.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you actually had seen anything this boss does, because you had such a good build, you basically one-shot this boss last time.
Yeah. So, we'll see if I can actually go hit it at any point here. That's not ideal.
I mentioned yesterday that I definitely struggled with this boss the most of the 4 overworld bosses. He's tricky to actually get to sometimes, depending on where he decides to teleport to.
Yeah, my goal is to try to just go near the center of the room. Hope that helps, but it has not been helping very much so far. Every time I'm hitting him, I'm getting frozen.
Hey, as long as you're doing damage, you've got a lot of health. You can just trade, right?
Maybe.
I did that so bad. Oof.
All right, Keiz stuck on 3 hearts here. It's hard to keep track of which screen to watch because you're both in boss fights at the same time right now. So something you'll notice Keiz is taking advantage of here is between phases on this fight, some colored like symbols will come down. Oh, another death from Keiz there, unfortunately. So some green and purple symbols will fall down, and each of the characters will take damage from only one or the other. So he's taking advantage of those squares that will swap you between the 2 characters to dodge the damage from those.
Oh, man. Yeah, not having to actually learn this boss the first time is really hurting me here.
To answer the question about how much of a difference having this boss in the second half makes, I would say if you're fighting this boss straight up, I would say it definitely makes it notably harder if you don't know some like very specific quick kill strats. If if you've played this game and are like a seasoned speedrunner, there's some item setups you can do to take this boss out very, very quickly, but when you're actually having to fight it legitimately, it's definitely quite a bit harder to have this one second and the more powered up phase. I don't think we actually touched on that today, just in case there's any new viewers. The bosses and the enemies on the overworld actually scale depending on how many bosses you have fought. So the fact that JHobz is fighting this as his 4th boss means that this is the most powerful version of Wizrobo that you can deal with. That means more damage and more health on the boss.
This one's going better so far, but it doesn't mean much. I was hoping maybe I could try some cheeky hook shot stuff to get me over there.
Man, this is really tense. You guys are so like synced up on your individual boss fights right now.
See, and I know I learned where Hyrule Castle was for when I actually beat the bosses. Okay, there we go. I beat him. But I don't remember where it is. I just know that I learned it and it's on the map. Or like
Okay,
where
so-
my entrance to it is.
All right, so Key's still
There we
working on Octavo. Very, very hard boss fight. Does get through it, though. So where we stand in the race right now, JHobz has 3 extra hearts, and he has the bottle as his advantage.
Unfortunately,
now
I don't
gets
have any rupees, so the bottle isn't like helping me at all.
That is true, although you can refill it later on in some shops inside the castle. So that is... Oh, no, JHobz. There's one more thing you still have to do.
Oh, man, I forgot. Okay, well, we're going to go get 10 rupees and talk to our favorite pal.
So there's one more overworld goal that JHobz actually needs to do other than the dungeons that he needs to find real quick. So once he farms a few rupees and talks to the fortune teller will show him where he needs to go. And so hopefully can get that done quickly and get back into this race here. Now, Keizaron is on the extremely difficult Dark World dungeon. This dungeon is 4 floors long. If you die at any point, you do have to start the entire thing over again. And the enemies in here are very highly scaled up, especially in the later floors. So if you take any deaths in here, it's definitely not surprising at all. He does fortunately find the map there, which will, even if he dies and the format, or like the layout of the dungeon gets reset, the map will stay with him, so he's going to be able to see the layout of the floors, even if it's changed up every time.
That was funny.
Oh, I gotta
See,
go
something-
wake up people, don't I? I gotta get my pals. That's what I've been. That's what I
There
was
we go.
forgetting.
Yeah, so part of the
Something
story
that was
mode of
mentioned
this-
yesterday. Sorry to interrupt, but something
No,
that
go
was mentioned yesterday by Roos. That's actually like a really good point. If you notice, when we're dying, we're not really getting too frustrated because even though this can be difficult, it's fair in what it is.
Yeah, and I
So
think
it's like
that's
a lot of times I'm just laughing at what's happening more than anything else.
I think in a game like this, which is very difficult, that's such an important characteristic to have, and it's why people appreciate a lot of other difficult games like, Celeste, for example, or Dark Souls. People typically cite as hard but fair. So if you're going to be a difficult game, that's definitely like you need to know that when you die, it was your fault. So I think what I'm trying to say is that this is the Dark Souls of indie roguelikes.
Of course. Alright, still trying to just work my way to the west here. So I can find Link. Yeah, here we go. I was trying to... The one nice thing about still having a little bit to do is that I was able to spend just a little bit of time getting more rupees, and now I can go get a health potion, so... Alright, how do I wake him up? Oh, not by dropping a bomb. Like a fool.
How does Link sleep through a bomb literally next to his bed? My goodness.
Oh, right. I need a potion that I don't recall how to get, so we're going to figure this out one way or another. Not here.
Oh, so anyway, to continue my thought from earlier, the one thing remaining that JHobz has to do is part of the story mode involves waking up whichever character you're not playing. So since he started with Zelda, he has to wake up Link. And by contrast, Keys had to wake up Zelda. And that occurs here in Kakariko Village. There's a little bit of a puzzle you have to do here. And there's one little mini boss you have to fight.
It's not good that I don't remember what I need to do here. Oh, boy. What do you got to say? Nope, that's not helpful. What about you? It's not helpful either.
Some people are asking about how this game is indie in chat. This game was developed by Bring Yourself Games, I believe is what they're called, and they're the indie developer for a game called Crypt of the Necrodancer. And pretty cool story, they approached Nintendo about just adding some Zelda DLC to Necrodancer, and Nintendo actually likes Necrodancer so much that they said, hey, rather than DLC, what if you just made a whole new game that fuses Zelda and Necrodancer together? So basically BYG got to make the game with the Zelda license. Brace yourself, that's it, sorry. I knew it was BYG, but I forgot what those stood for.
I'm trying to remember what to do here. That's the wrong one. I'm hoping maybe I just need to move something.
You're
I
so
can't tell you
close
how-
to getting it, JHobz.
Oh, there it is.
I can't
Jeez,
tell you
all
how
I
many
did-
times that I have deserved to die and haven't.
I feel like I should be saying more about what's going on Keys' screen, but this two-handed sword is just letting him like stay so far away from everything that he can just smack everything from like a mile away and keep himself safe. Unfortunately, is down to 3 hearts now though, so things just got dangerous again all of a sudden. Did manage to make it through his 4th floor here, though. Even though he's on 3 hearts, made it through possibly the worst part. So he does now just have the final boss left, which can be extremely difficult, especially when you don't have any safety potions. So JHobz is going to need to rely on a good number of deaths on the final boss here from Keys to be able to get back into this. So this is... excuse me, sorry. So on the right-hand side, you can see Keys is fighting Ganon now. The gimmick to this fight is that you need to break the shield that Ganon keeps around him, and you have to use multiple characters to do so. So you're going to have your main character that you control, and then the other 2 are going to be frozen in ice, and you can hit them out of the ice, and they're all controlled by the same inputs, as you can see, so they stay synced up. So you need one of the characters to break the shield, but they'll get stunned by breaking it. So you need one of the other characters to not be stunned and hit Ganon after the shield has been broken. Now you're kind of limited. You can only do 1 heart of damage to him at a time with a hit, so you can't kill him too quickly. You have to go through a few cycles of this. Now, important to note, the other characters share the same health pool with you, so you do actually have to watch all of them and make sure they don't get hit too much as well.
Alright, I'm at least in somewhat of a good position, even though I'm really far behind now, because I can go wake up Link and then go get a health potion while I figure out where Cadence is, because I don't remember. Or if I don't even remember if I have to do that right away, but... Okay.
So Keys is doing pretty well, still has himself at 5 hearts and has done quite a bit of damage to Ganon here. This fight can get overwhelming very quickly because lots and lots of minions spawn. Not only do they just like pop in more and more as the later phases go on, but you also get these little tombs that can like spawn enemies as well. And now that he's in the final phase, a lot of mini bosses are going to spawn. Now he just needs to get all 3 characters active and then get them onto these 3 little Triforce squares. He's got 2 of them open, needs to avoid any of these bosses because he is at a heart and a half.
Dang it.
Really, really easy. Oh! Got killed by the Mr. Lizard dude, the yellow Dyra there. Took damage on Link. Unfortunately, takes a death there. Does get to just go straight back into the fight. But, you know, JHobz is now getting himself into Hyrule Castle, so he can't die too many times without giving JHobz a chance to get back into this.
If I recall correctly, don't I have to go... I thought I had to go get the part, maybe not. Okay, so we're just going to move on.
Alright, so JHobz is taking the time to get himself a really, really good weapon in here that's specific to Zelda. It's the Royal Rapier, which does a ton of damage, has extra range, and gives you a lunge that pushes enemies away from you. I think personally that it's the best weapon in the game. I think a lot of speedrunners in particular will agree that it's the best weapon. The one that Keys is using right now with all the extra damage and range is quite good as well. But if you're trying to go fast, the fact that the rapier lets you lunge forward and keep moving while fighting is pretty valuable.
Alright.
That's really bad.
Right, that's all this is. I was thinking this is where I needed to go, but that's okay. This still might not be a bad idea because it is really nice.
I'm gonna do something first.
Alright, Keys takes another death, unfortunately. This fight is so difficult. I mean, you just get swarmed by so many enemies, and having to keep track of 3 characters on screen and that many enemies all at once is extremely difficult. So, like, I really can't fault anybody for taking deaths here at all.
Oh, I'm out of arrows. That's not great. Now I know I can just kind of like stall here and things will die, so... But it's... okay, this isn't as slow as I thought it would be. This isn't as bad. I'm still gonna have to find a way to take out these other 2, but... I think I should be able to do that by like quick shotting over or something.
Alright, while JHobz figures out how to get the Royal Rapier here, let's keep our eyes on the right-hand side of the screen. Keys is into the second phase of Ganon and hasn't taken too much damage here.
You said that.
Oh man, the Armos guy he's so difficult to deal with, especially when it gets you up against a wall like that.
I'm not understanding something about this. I guess I ran out of stamina, maybe. This is not good.
I lost track.
know A good way to get this, and at this point I've kind of committed.
Another death from Keys here. So this is pretty much what JHobz needs, is about a good number more of these, and unfortunately this boss is fully capable of doing it, especially if it's really nasty with its spawns. So it's not exactly consistent on what enemies will spawn, so if you get some bad series of enemies in a row, it can make it really, really difficult for you. Good start to this fight from Keys here. Hasn't taken any damage yet and has put pretty good damage on Ganon now.
I actually don't know what to do here. Like, I can leave, I guess. I thought this was the way I had to go.
I will avoid all spoilers until told otherwise.
Right, yeah. Wait, no, that's right. Like, I can leave, but I was hoping I could go and get the other thing.
So Keys is using a pretty good strat here where he actually doesn't wake up his third character and is just using the two, and that keeps the third character from being on the screen able to be getting hurt, so it leaves you less vulnerable. You do have one fewer character to work with, but if you're smart about keeping them separated so you don't get both stunned at once, it can definitely work out for you. Okay, on to phase 3 here with 5 hearts to work with. Unfortunately, there's 2 Lionels on the screen right now, which can hit you from a long way away. Let's see if he can do it. 1 character on 2.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, good job. GG
Oh my
with the
God.
1 heart left.
I was so laser focused. I was literally running numbers in my head, like, okay, I can take this hit. Then I saw the heart drop. Then I was like, okay, I can go for this. Like, that was super duper risky what I just did at the end.
There was a Lionel on each of your characters on the Triforce just sitting there pounding them every beat. And I was like, how is he going to make it through this? He made it through with 1 heart. Very nicely done.
GG, dude.
GG. This was... I'm shaking. That last fight is really tough.
It very much is. Like, even for experienced players, you can definitely still take some deaths there. It gets out of hand quickly.
Oh, I have no
So I
stamina.
ended up with a runtime of 2:27:02, and then total steps 15,661.
Not bad for a second run. I think we can all agree.
Now, I will go on the record and say that when I was first picking this up, like, just in general, I'm not the biggest roguelike fan at all. Like, it's just not something that I play too often and something I'm not too terribly into. I think this is actually like a pretty decent introduction for anybody that wants to pick up something like this for a speedrun. Because, I mean, having a familiar character and familiar music like Zelda is really, really important for something like this, just to, like, kind of get into the groove of things.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that, and I think there was definitely some intentional design in that direction from the developers, because I mean, Necrodancer is a great game, but it is really, really brutally difficult. I mean, just so hard, even to beat. I think when I started playing it, I had maybe like 60 hours on the game before I had cleared it 1 time. So I mean, if you don't really, really love it, it's just too brutal to really bother getting through. So I think with this one, they definitely designed it to be a little bit more approachable, with things like the not having permanent death and just being able to access a lot more health and things like that. So I'm glad that made it a little bit more pleasant of an experience for you.
And by the way, I don't think we're going to wait for me to finish or anything, but I was just trying to see if I could get to the end of Hyrule Castle.
Now you know what it's like to be mercy killed.
Well,
that was the wrong way to
despite
move.
the fact that we ended up this far apart, I think this race was actually very close for quite a long time, in fact. I think there were just a couple of points where basically the deciding factor was JHobz not remembering exactly how to get through a couple of overworld puzzles.
Yeah, that hurt me a lot. There was a lot of times where I completely forgot either what I needed to do next or how to get through a screen. I wish I had also, like, just yeah, I mean, I wish I had taken notes on that basically when we started. Like, I think I brought it up yesterday when we first started this race, that this is a game that is probably worth in having a little bit extra effort put into your first run. You know, we are going to be honest with the games we put on here and everything for the first step. We think that in general, doing semi-blind races is a great way to get into speedrunning. I think this is one where just a little bit of note-taking, like just in terms of how certain bosses work or what objectives you have to do or how you can get through certain rooms is going to go a long way. Like, even just spending 15 minutes doing that would have helped me a lot. And I'm sure, Keys, it would have helped you too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, but I think we are going to call it there. Short broadcast, I know everybody, but this was just wrapping up from yesterday. We figured it was probably going to be something like this. I was hoping Keys might get a little bit more walled, so I could try to catch up.
I died a few times. I tried to give it to you.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't take advantage. I was dying too much and forgetting where to go and stuff like that. So, well-earned victory to you, Keys. Now, next Thursday... and actually, before I get into this, thank you again, Roos, for commentating.
Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
There was no way that we were going to be able to talk about this game that much while we were playing.
Yeah, I had to focus so hard.
It was so difficult to pay attention to this game and talk about it, even when just playing it casually. But with that in mind, next Thursday, which is our normal day for the first step, is actually Thanksgiving here in the U.S. So... You might think that might mean we're going to take a week off. We're actually not going to. I am going to take a week off. I'm going to be gone. I'm going to be home with family and stuff. But Keys...
They're hazing the new guy. No.
Keys and our normal restreamer Richard are still going to be here. And Keys, you want to tell everybody exactly what we got going on next week? Because it's a special one. It's a nice little Thanksgiving-themed one.
Oh, I will absolutely tell them after I say some more announcements.
Nice.
You guys have to wait. So... Let's go through some announcements real quick for everyone. So this Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern, we do have Castlevania that's going to be on Hotfix. Be sure to check that out. Castlevania is always a fun watch. We also have Monday, 5 p.m. Eastern, Dandara. Someone tell me how to say that. It's a platform. It literally says in parentheses, a platformer. I feel like this was made to be like Keizaron proof here, but right. I still found a way to keys it up.
And that'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, so that'll be Community Spotlight. Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we have Random Number Generation. I'm not sure entirely what's being played on that. I do know that the focus of that is to focus on like the randomizer races. It's hosted by my good friend Skybills. Be sure to check that out. We also have what is it? CGDQ, I believe.
Oh yeah. So we're doing a little bit of a kind of remix, like, you know, reprisal of Classic Games Done Quick, because that was the first Games Done Quick event, and GDQ 2020 is going to be the 10th anniversary. So beforehand, doing a little bit of a just kind of run through of the whole like CGDQ schedule, or at least as much of it as we still can, with some runners new and old. So that'll be super cool. It'll be on the December 27th through the 29th. Be sure to tune into that. Only a few days before AGDQ 2020. So like, I guess a week before it. That'll be awesome.
And then finally, the announcement that JHobz was alluding to. This is going to be fun. I don't think you guys are ready for this. So as JHobz said, next week is Thanksgiving for us U.S. residents. I typically don't do Thanksgiving the day of. I usually do it either the day before or the day after. So we did a little executive thinking and decided, hey, we don't want to take a break from the show, even though we won't have JHobz. So I will be there, and our normal co-streamer Richard will be there, or no, host. But it's going to be a very special episode. We're going to be doing Cooking Mama 2. And I'm dragging my girlfriend Bridget into this because happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to drag family into this.
You also forgot the important subtitle of Cooking Mama 2, Dinner with Friends.
Dinner
it's
with
like
Friends.
The perfect Thanksgiving game.
No idea how this is going to go. This is definitely a departure, I would say, from the normal games we pick.
Now
but,
tell me,
it should be fun.
Tell me, Keys, has Bridget ever done speedrun anything before?
Bridget has never ever speedran anything. So if you want to see the true first step at its core, at its finest, you will see it next Thursday.
Yeah, so if you've got nothing going on, or maybe after you've gotten your belly full of turkey and all
Stuffed
that
with
kind of
turkey.
stuff, you want to watch something in the evening, 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday next week. Tune in. I'm sure I'm going to be watching it from home. It'll be a blast. I'm so looking forward to that.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I think she thought we were going to take longer because I told her, hey, be around for the announcement, and I don't think she had. That tells you how much she has faith in me. I don't think she thought I'd be done this quick.
All right. Well, I'll be watching next week. Be rooting for Bridget, of course. And
Of course.
And with that, I think that's pretty much going to do it here for us. So we're going to be calling it a night. Again, be sure to tune into GDQ Hotfix. If you get the chance, please subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. It's kind of how we keep these shows going. And we will see y'all next time. Tune in tomorrow for the Castlevania thing. I'm actually going to be hosting that, so I'll still be around.
Hey.
Yeah. See you, everybody.